You're here. Welcome to the Masterminding Success podcast. They say if you want to be successful in business and in life, then surround yourself with successful people. So pull up a seat. The mastermind is about to begin.
Okay, so if a fly loses its wings, does it now become a walk?
That's a good one. Maybe.
Oh, hey, you made it. Glad you could join us for another episode of the Masterminding Success podcast. We're your hosts, Keith Wheeler.
And Nuria Corby.
And what are we talking about today, Nuria?
Well, today we're going to talk about something that I love to talk about because the topic is KDP saturated? And by KDP, we're talking about Kindle Direct Publishing, but this could apply to any business. When we talk about KDP, I think, we could be saying this about any business.
Yeah, I know the fans of our other channels that are listening to the podcast are probably excited. Oh, they're finally talking about books. But yeah, it definitely, we talk about KDP just because we're very familiar with that. And that's a question that we get a lot, especially, throughout the year, but especially towards the end of the year. But it really does. The answer really relates to just about every industry you can think of. And that is, quote, whatever industry, is it saturated? So what are your thoughts on this?
I think I get this question a lot. It's not even a question. People are very adamant. KDP is saturated. Yeah. You can't publish any books anymore. And it really, I always give them the example of if you go to a market, any market, there are tons of stalls with fruit, with potatoes, with whatever you can think of, and nobody goes into a market and says, "Oh, this is saturated. we can't sell any more potatoes or any more oranges." Or it is a marketplace, and Amazon is a marketplace. And I think any business, if it's buoyant and it's busy, that's a good thing, And my husband and I, we always have this joke when we walk into a bookstore. We love going to bookstores and browsing and seeing what's new, taking pictures. And we went, when was it? It was last Sunday. We went to a big shopping mall here in the UK called Blue Water, which is near to us. And there is a huge Waterstones. People in the UK will know what it is. It's a big bookstore. It's absolutely massive. And there was bookstores, book shelves, and it was just never ending. It was like a sea of books. And not only was there a sea of books, but there was a sea of people buying books. So my husband and I looked at each other and we said, it's saturated. Because we know what people always say when they see so many books on Amazon. They say, oh, there's too many books already. Can we really publish more books and make money? And the answer is absolutely yes, because it's not saturated. It's just that it's a very busy marketplace, and there are always new books coming out, and people are always looking for new books. So I think if we had to buy all of those books, yes, it would be saturated, but we just buy a small section of books, and another person will buy another small section, and so on. So, yeah, that's my opinion. I don't think any business is saturated. It's what you bring to the table and how you develop your product, and it's up to you to make it work. It's not the marketplace at fault if you're not selling. It's your product or how you present it. Do you think that? Right.
No, I do agree. I agree 100%. I think one thing that adds into this whole belief that things are saturated is all these commercials you might see on YouTube or on social media where they say such and such is saturated, and they're saying that as a selling point to get you to do whatever they're trying to sell you. So keep that in the back of your mind when you hear that. For those people who are interested in books that are listening to this podcast, don't turn away, because again, this isn't just about books. You could say if you wanted to open up a hamburger joint, you could be like, well, there's hamburger joints everywhere. It's saturated, but it's not. It's again, what you were saying is what are you doing that's going to make it unique? Are they going to be gourmet burgers? Are they going to, are your hours going to be different? You're only going to be open from, breakfast to lunch and not all day. And, again, what's going to make people come to you above and beyond your competitors, at least to try you out. And then what are you going to do that's going to keep them coming back for more? So, obviously, we talk a lot about, off the podcast, a lot about books. And that's the topic of this is KDP in particular, but it really does come down to, what we call niching it down.
Yes.
If you create a business, I'm not going to say a book. If you create a business that's made for everybody, then it is going to seem saturated because you're going to be just one of a million, and instead of finding something unique. So you're one in a million, so you're, the whole point of you stand out. Again, whether it's the niche that you're writing your books in, or if you're creating no content books, what that niche is, or if you're creating any kind of business, what are you offering? What are you putting on the table? And this is something we covered back when we were first, one of our first episodes when we were talking about starting a business, what's going to make your business different? What's going to make you stand out? So, I agree completely that it's not saturated if if you think more into your business and what's going to make your business different.
Absolutely. I agree so much. I mean, this is a subject which I feel really, I don't know if passionate is the right word, but I really like to say to people that don't think of anything as being saturated, because then you're already giving up, and maybe that's why people think it's saturated, because they find it too difficult, or the whole thing seems too daunting and too complicated, and it's saturated. But that shouldn't stop anybody. I think that a busy marketplace is a good thing, and if you can find that niche and that original or unique product, whatever that is, whether it's books or whatever product you have. I remember that was the case when I started my online business selling jewelry. People were saying it's saturated. Everybody's selling jewelry, on Facebook, on eBay, on Amazon. But you can still do something. You can still make it your own and have a certain style and something that makes you different from other people. And the same happened with YouTube. There's too many people doing YouTube. You're never going to get anywhere. But, if that stops you, then they're right. You can't let things like that stop you. You have to at least try. And if you find that thing that makes you stand away from everybody else and makes you stand out from everybody, then I think you can't really talk of it in terms of saturation. It's busy, but it's not saturated. And being busy means that there are lots of people also buying. So, Amazon, if we're talking about KDP, Amazon is such a huge marketplace. I don't think it can ever be saturated, and especially books, because you're reading books, you finished one book, you then buy another one. It's like, it's a never-ending thing. It's not something, books are not something you buy once in a lifetime and that's it. It's not like houses or like, something that you can only buy once in a blue moon. People are buying things all the time. I should know. I'm probably Amazon's best customer.
Yeah, I hear you. I so many times I feel that people are using the phrase "it's saturated," whether it's intentionally or unintentionally, as an excuse. Either, like you said, an excuse why I shouldn't do it, or an excuse why I did it and I'm not seeing the success that I wanted to. Yeah. Again, getting back to a previous episode that we did, it's not easy. Business isn't easy. And so if you're, all these people that are selling this get rich quick, the business isn't it. And so, but I agree, it's not saturated. Now, it may seem saturated, regardless of your business, if, when it comes to kind of getting people in your door, either whether it's virtually or physically, but, that just comes with promoting it and getting the word out there. But that's not the niche. So it may be that there's a lot of books out there, and your book is one of 1,000 that's in that niche, which for those people who aren't into books, 1 in 1,000 is a pretty good niche to be in. If you only have 1,000 other books as competitors. So yeah, you may have to do promotions and things like that, but that's part of business.
Yeah.
Again, and that's what I think one of the biggest issues when it comes to publishing books, whether it's self-publishing or traditionally publishing, is that people tend to forget that it is a business. If you want to be successful in it, it's a business, and you have to treat it like that.
Yeah.
So again, it's getting back to the whole original question. They're not saturated. It's just a matter of it's not as easy as it used to be. There are more competitors out there, so you have to do more to become more visible to your potential customer. But once you do, if you have a good quality product, then they're going to keep coming back.
That's a good point. I think that's what it's about. It's the fear of the competition, really. They see all that competition that they've got. Everybody's competing, and it does. And I mean, we've all done it. I've said it's saturated, and many times, until I realized that actually it's not. It's what you. I think sometimes you just get a light bulb moment, and it suddenly becomes all clear. But I was one of the people that said it's very saturated. I think it was when I was doing blogging. I thought, I don't know. And the reason was it wasn't working for me. It was just not, I was finding it really difficult. And then it's really easy to say it's saturated. It kind of takes that burden off your shoulders. But I think I was kind of lying to myself by doing that. And now, because of everything else that I've done after I did blogging with KDP and everything, I understand the things that I did in the past better as well. And I see now that actually it wasn't that it was saturated, it was that I wasn't bringing anything different to the table. And I think when it comes to books, I've got a good example this week as well. Someone copied one of my books, exactly cover. There was just a slight variation on the design, but the inside, there was a page in my book where I explain how to use the book. That was copied word for word, So, and I'm thinking, why are they doing that? Because they're not gaining anything by doing that. They might gain a couple of sales, but my book has, quite a lot of sales, and I know why they did it, because they thought, this is a good one to copy. But it's not going to work for you. You have to bring something unique to the table and something different, because otherwise, if you just copy what's already out there, then that's not going to work. So
I mean, if you copy something that's been out there longer and has reviews and everything else, like you said, you might get a couple stray sales, but again, that's not a good business model to have.
No.
You need to do something that's going to make it unique. Now, I have run into that issue myself, which is why majority of the time I don't publish under my own name anymore. Once the channel got to a certain size, then I was like, and I started seeing that happening more frequently. But it's not, like I said, it's just not a good business model to have. And when it comes to being saturated, the way I look at it is, the only way something can really be saturated is if, obviously there's a lot of competitors, but if the customer base is a finite amount, you're only going to get X amount but when it comes to business, it's not. I mean, the customers could be anybody. And so because it's basically an infinite number of, obviously the number of, people on the planet, but that's about it, so it's really, I don't see how it really can be saturated as long as you find a way to reach out to your target audience, the people that will enjoy your product, your book the most. And if it speaks to them, then not only do you get that sale, but you probably get more sales, and get those repeat customers.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the thing, and not to copy and to bring something unique to it. And I don't know, it's just, it does seem daunting. And I do know why people sometimes suddenly look at something and think, oh no, it's saturated. It's not what I thought it was. It's not as, really what they're saying is it's not as easy as I thought it was. Because like you said earlier, they've watched those advertisements, or even YouTube videos where someone says, well, this book makes $5,000 per month. You can do it too,
In 3 easy steps. Yeah.
Yes, very easy, while you sleep, So it's not easy at all, and it's hard work, and obviously it doesn't sell to say that to people, so I can understand why people say it's easy, but I don't think, I mean, I always tell people it's difficult, and they understand. And the ones that want something easy, they're not going to benefit from any good advice that you can give them, because then, there is no such thing as easy money. So I think people are understanding enough that they know it's going to be hard work. And those don't tend to be the ones that say it's saturated. The people that are putting in the work, they can see that if they work hard, they can possibly make it work. And it's usually the ones that are looking for an easier way. And I don't blame them. We're all looking for easier ways. But they tend to be the ones that look at it and they say, oh, no, it's too saturated, because they can see that they would have to compete with a lot of people. Right. And there lies the difficulty, really. Finding that unique selling point is not easy. So
yeah. I mean, life is hard. It's always best to we have this inclination to always reach for something that's easy, because we're not used to easy. We're used to life being hard. So I get that, and I don't begrudge anybody for feeling that way. I'll be honest. A lot of times I'll hear KDP is saturated, and I just chuckle, and I'm like, okay, and then that means you're not going to do it, which means that's one less competitor for me. But I don't like it when people get deterred, when they get that negative mindset that I can't do it. Again, it's not easy. It's not easy. But if you go into it with the right business mindset, and, you understand that, it's like they almost use the word interchangeably with there's competition. It's saturated. There's competition. Yeah. Well, yeah, there's competition again, because it's a business. Yeah. But again, saturated means, there's too much there. Adding to it isn't going to be beneficial. And that's not the truth. If you have some product worth, that's worth it to customers, then it is worth it to do it. But again, it will take some time and energy to get that in the eyes of your potential customers. Yeah.
It's I think, we could have another topic about this, the mindset of this whole thing. There's a lot of there's not really much in between, I find. There's either people who are very positive about something, and they tend to be the ones that make it in the end. And there's another set of people who are negative right from the beginning and really don't see what could be achieved. They see what could be lost rather than what could be achieved. Right. But I think that's the same in any aspect of life, really, not just business. But I think that is really important, mindset, and having a positive mindset, and not looking at the competition as a bad thing. It's a good thing. And I think that I'm sure people who are listening now have their own ideas about that, and there will be some that will insist that it is saturated because that's how they see it. And if that's how you see it, then that's your truth, and that's how the world presents to you. But you can overcome that. You can try and look at the positives, or maybe just try and do it and see what happens. I don't know. It's just really hard to get over that mindset, and because I think we all have that at some point, where we think, oh no, I can't do that, but actually, why not? Why can't we do it? Right. And it's saturated is one of those views that kind of stops you from doing something. And it's not because it really is saturated, it's because you see it that way, and that is the problem. Yeah. Right.
And if you're going into a business, again, I keep calling it a business because it is, but you go into any kind of business and you have that mindset, already have that negative mindset of failure, it's going to be hard to overcome that. Definitely. Whether it's overcoming it, monetarily with actually getting success, or just, within yourself, if you already have a negative mindset, many times I've said that the difference between people that I know that have been successful and people who haven't is that the people that haven't just quit too soon. It's hard to not be one of those people if you already go into it with a negative mindset. It's so much easier to quit if you already are thinking you're going to fail,
Yeah.
and I know some people do that so that way they don't, they go in with, the lowest expectations so that way they can't be disappointed. But that's not the way to run a business. That's not the way. The most successful people I know are the most positive people that I know.
Yeah.
And, and it's, and it's, as we've said before, it's not easy. There are going to be, things that trip you up. There will be failures. But again, it's how you handle those failures. Do you just, roll over and say, okay, I knew it was saturated? Or do you say, okay, what, I need to pivot. What can I do to change things around, Okay, KDP, the whole title of this is KDP Saturated. KDP is a huge generalization, it's not, are you doing, what kind of books are you doing? Are you doing children's books? What kind of children's books are you doing? Are you doing picture books? Okay. Are you doing concept books? Are you doing books, that are teaching like, letters and numbers and, what's the age range? All these little things that help, that niche it down, that help drill down who your target audience is. And then at that level, is it really saturated? No, and the good thing about, we're talking about KDP. The great thing about that is you can look on Amazon and see what your competition is,
Exactly.
And, but even if you just look at that and you look at, the competition is 1,000, if you just Googled up how many books were, paper, print books were bought last year, and you see the millions that were bought and your competition is 1,000, how in the world can anybody realistically call that saturated?
Yeah. I think it's just a relief to some people to be able to say, oh, it's saturated, because I know people that are really struggling we're talking about KDP again, but it could be any other business.
Right.
But some people are really struggling and they're following all the advice. They're doing what they think is the best they can do, and it's just not working for them. And then if it's not really for them, and it can be not for them, it's not for everybody. It feels so good to be able to say, oh, it's because it's saturated, know. And I understand that totally, because and if that makes you feel better, I'm all for making yourself feel better in any way you can, then that is a good reason to do that. But it's not, for those of us who take it almost like a challenge rather than a problem, it's definitely not saturated, because there comes a point when you understand where that point is, where is it not saturated. You start learning about niches, you start learning about where there's gaps in the market. And that comes in time, that comes with experience, and it's not something some people know straight away. I admire when I see these people that know, they've got a nose for things almost, I've had to learn it the hard way, but you do eventually, and you find those niches and you find those gaps in the market, and it's definitely not saturated. But if it's saturated in your particular niche, in your particular world, then it's a way out for some people to say, well, I'm going to try something different, and that's fine. That's
absolutely fair. And again, I mean, I'm really big about, especially if you're doing this as a side job, if you're not enjoying it, then why do it? I mean, absolutely. Just do your full-time job if you're not enjoying what you're doing on the side. So I'm okay, with people if they use it as a reason to stop doing what they're doing or to change what they're doing, then that's completely fine. Just don't. I think you're doing yourself a disservice if you use it as an excuse. Meaning just trying to blame it on everything else. And if you just aren't having fun or enjoying, and not to take away the fact that it is a business, so there are going to be things that are not fun about it. But in general, if you're just not enjoying yourself and you're not seeing success, then maybe your time and energy is better served somewhere else. But it's probably not because it's quote unquote saturated, but more of maybe you don't have the finances to run enough advertising to get your your books in the eyes of, your potential buyer. A lot of it is, and I really respect those people that, like you were saying, that kind of just catch on really quickly. But I think a lot of that are people that maybe have done some research ahead of time because they were treating it like a business. And they're like, okay, going into this, I want to make sure that I understand this. But I'll tell you, I've been doing this since 2016, and I still learn stuff, if not every day, at least every week. And that's what makes it fun. The moment I stop learning is probably when I'll stop doing it, because it won't be fun anymore. There won't be any challenge behind it. I'm always trying to kind of one up myself. What can I do to better enhance my product, my books, and customers are a great way to learn from that. The positive and the negative reviews, that you get from customers. That's how you can make your product even better. Again, whether it's a book or, a restaurant or whatever, if you get feedback from your customers that, this is working really great, this isn't working, then, you focus on what is working great and you keep doing it. And then what isn't working, you can kind of tweak and learn from that.
Absolutely. I actually use that a lot in the book world, where I look at other people's feedback and then especially the negative feedback is really useful because you can just make something better than that, or cover those things that were missing in the books that are already out there. So yeah, absolutely, you can learn a lot, and you never stop learning. That's another topic, actually.
Yeah, absolutely, never stop learning. But no, looking at your customers or your competitors' reviews absolutely is a great way to better your product. Not only looking at your own reviews, but your competitors as well, to see where they're lacking, so that way you can make up for that and make your product even better. So it's definitely a great way to again just stand above and beyond your competitors and make it seem a lot less saturated. Well, this has been another great mastermind, Nuria. We want to say a huge thank you to each and every one of you listeners and viewers who came to tag along. If you enjoyed today's mastermind, it would mean the world to us if you'd follow or subscribe to the podcast on your favorite listening platform. And while you're at it, go on and leave us a review. We love to read them. I don't know about you, Nuria, but I'm super excited about next week's topic.
Me too. And I'm not going to give anything away, but it's a good one.
Until next time, I'm Keith Wheeler.
And I'm Nuria Corby.
Have a good day.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for joining the Mastermind today. Be sure to follow the podcast on your platform of choice and tell a friend who would enjoy it too. Your support is greatly appreciated. This has been the Masterminding Success Podcast.